The stage was set for a massive comeback. Goyang Stadium was booked. The teasers had everyone waiting. Then, well, the fandom went silent. In an instant, the entire K-pop world was turned upside down. Welcome to StarScope K-Report. Join Eric and Minji as they ride the Hallyu weave, uncovering the biggest K-pop comebacks, shocking industry controversies, and major K-drama updates. From internet-breaking rumors to historic chart milestones, we dive deep into the world of Korean entertainment.
Yeah, and today's deep dive is it's a really heavy one. It bridges the gap between that flawless, glittering surface of the Korean entertainment industry and the harsh, often completely hidden physical realities of being a global performer.
I mean, we are unpacking a headline that legitimately sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Our mission today is to uncover the truth behind IU postpones everything, the invisible condition she hid from us.
Right. And to do that, we've got a massive stack of sources in front of us. We're pulling from financial news, the Korea Times, Alt-Pop, Chosun, official agency statements, and even some real patient accounts from Reddit. We want to really understand the terrifying medical reality and the behind-the-scenes drama surrounding IU's sudden hiatus.
Because it really is a perfect storm, right? The news dropped on July 20, 2026, and it caught the entire K-pop world completely off guard.
Oh, absolutely. And understand the weight of this for anyone who, isn't deep into the stan life. A full-scale K-pop comeback isn't just dropping a single on Spotify. It's a massive, highly choreographed rollout.
Yeah, and we are talking about IU, an artist who practically secures a chart all kill the absolute second she drops a track. Hitting #1 on every single major domestic music chart simultaneously is just like standard for her.
Exactly. And she was scheduled for a monumental September concert at Goyang Stadium, which is one of the biggest venues in the country, and she was right about to drop her 6th full-length album.
And then, in a single day, all of that incredible momentum just ground to a complete halt.
Yeah, her agency, Edom Entertainment, they released this official statement announcing they made the incredibly difficult decision to adjust her entire planned schedule for the year.
Wow. Just the whole year. Wiped clean.
Right. They explicitly stated her health was the absolute top priority. And they clarified something really specific, which was that while her daily life, like her day-to-day existence, isn't severely disrupted, the specific act of performing, standing on a stage, controlling her vocals, is currently impossible.
God, I was reading through her personal letter on the fan platform of Breeze, and it is just gut-wrenching. She was so vulnerable with you guys, the fans.
Yeah, she really opened up.
She admitted to pushing herself way too hard for years out of what she called work ambition. She mentioned that recent weather conditions might have even worsened her symptoms, and that it had persisted day and night for several days leading up to the announcement. She literally wrote, "I spent hellish days because of an ear problem."
And the tragic part of this situation, especially from a production standpoint, is that her 6th album is actually completely finished.
Wait, entirely finished?
Entirely. Based on her letter, she was heavily involved in the mixing process, working with entirely new production teams, exploring new genres. But the reality of a major full-length release in this industry is that, well, the promotion relies heavily on a nationwide or global tour.
Right, you can't just drop a massive album and not tour it.
Exactly. So without the physical ability to tour, the entire rollout had to be shelved. She did express a deep hope to receive treatment and return healthy by 2027 to be with the 8th and 9th generation Uaena, her official fandom.
And the reaction from Uaena and the broader K-pop community was honestly just beautiful to watch. I mean, in this culture, anticipating a comeback is everything. You count down the days, you analyze the concept photos, you save up for the concerts.
Oh.
To have all that momentum suddenly slam into a hiatus is usually met with chaos, right? But the domestic K-nets and international fans just flooded the comment sections on platforms like Osin and Autophony with pure support. Like, the top comments were all just saying, health is the most important, and we can wait anytime.
Yeah, it was really a mature response. It recognizes that the human being comes before the performer, which, let's be honest, is sometimes a rarity in the hyper-competitive Hallyu wave.
It's like building this state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar rocket and realizing the internal comm system is broken right before the launch sequence.
Yeah.
You can't just hit go, even if the rocket looks perfect on the outside.
That's a perfect analogy.
But what exactly is this invisible condition that forced one of K-pop's absolute top stars to step away from the mic? The medical reality is far more terrifying for a singer than you might think, and we'll unpack that next.
Yeah, the medical breakdown of this is fascinating, but it is deeply unsettling once you understand the mechanics. The condition she is suffering from is called Patulous Eustachian Tube, or PET.
Okay, PET. Because when you just hear ear problem, you might think of, I don't know, a standard ear infection or maybe temporary hearing loss from loud monitors.
Right, but this is entirely different. To understand why this is a literal nightmare for a vocalist, we have to look at the anatomy. The Eustachian tube is a small, narrow passageway that connects your middle ear directly to the back of your nose and upper throat.
Okay.
In a healthy individual, this tube remains closed. It only opens briefly when you do things like swallow, chew, or yawn, and it does that just to equalize air pressure.
Right, like that pop you feel in your ears when a plane takes off.
Exactly. That's the tube opening for a split second. But with PT, this tube stays abnormally, permanently open.
Wait, meaning there is just a completely open tunnel from your throat where your voice and breath are generated straight into your eardrum.
That is exactly the structural failure happening here. Because that tunnel is open, sounds and air pressure generated inside your own body are transmitted directly into your middle ear without any filtering at all.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The Korea Times and medical texts detail the primary symptom of this, which is called autophony. Dr. Jieun from Severance Hospital explains that patients hear their own voice echoing loudly, as if they are standing inside a resonant cave.
That sounds maddening.
It gets weirder. Some patients figure out that the echoing temporarily disappears if they bend forward at a 90-degree angle or lie flat, because bending forward increases venous blood pressure and congestion in the head, which temporarily swells the surrounding tissues just enough to force the tube closed.
I was trying to find a way to visualize this for you, our listener, because it's hard to grasp if you haven't felt it. Imagine trying to sing a delicate, emotional ballad on stage in front of 50,000 people, right?
Yeah, high pressure.
But someone has shoved a high-powered microphone directly down your throat, and they are piping the sound of your own heart beating, your lungs expanding, and your own voice echoing back into your in-ear monitor's maximum volume.
That captures the sensory distortion perfectly. For a vocalist who relies entirely on absolute pitch perfection and subtle breath control, having your own internal bodily functions amplified directly into your eardrum makes producing an accurate tone nearly impossible.
Yeah.
You literally cannot hear the music over the sound of your own existence.
It's terrifying. We actually went digging into the Patulous Tube's Reddit community, and the real-world accounts from patients battling this invisible condition are incredibly visceral. One user described the sound of their own normal breathing as sounding like Darth Vader living inside their head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And another said the rushing sound of their own blood makes it feel like standing on a runway next to a jet engine. Another described hearing their own voice like a radio turned all the way up, but taken slightly off the station, so it's just this loud, distorted, echoing fuzz.
Reading through those accounts really highlights the psychological toll. I mean, it's a profound sensory overload that you cannot escape because you can't just stop breathing or speaking.
There was one specific account on Reddit from a classical choir singer that was absolutely harrowing. They called Pete a silent battle. Because they look totally fine on the outside, nobody in their choir understands the torture they are enduring during performances.
Right, because it's invisible.
Exactly. The singer detailed a routine where they have to snort salt water up their nose 3 times a week before rehearsals and before every single concert. They intentionally induce painful swelling in their nasal cavity, just trying to force the surrounding tissues to puff up and close the Eustachian tube just so they can hear the orchestra over their own echoing breath.
That is agonizing.
And they admitted that half the time the pain of the salt water doesn't even work.
That really speaks to the sheer desperation of trying to maintain a performance career with this condition. And to understand how someone develops this, we have to look at what physically keeps that tube closed in the first place. According to the medical sources and financial news, PET often occurs due to the shrinking of fatty tissues or muscles surrounding the Eustachian tube.
Wait, hold on. There are fat pads inside your ear.
Yeah, there actually are. There is a specific pad of fatty tissue, known as Ostman's fat pad, that physically supports and cushions the area around the Eustachian tube, keeping it pressed shut.
Okay, so what makes it shrink?
The most common trigger for PET is rapid or significant weight loss. When overall body fat drops, that specific fatty tissue in the head also diminishes. Without that physical padding, the tube simply loses the structural support it needs to stay closed.
So it just flaps open.
Right. And beyond weight loss, it's also triggered by heavy, exhausting physical exercise, which can dry out the mucosal linings of the throat and nose, high caffeine intake, which acts as a diuretic, and severe accumulated stress.
Okay, here's where I ran into something deeply frustrating in the research, and I bet you listening might be thinking the same thing. If a singer goes to a doctor and says, "My ear feels totally blocked, my voice is echoing, and my head feels full," wouldn't a general practitioner just prescribe standard cold medicine, like an over-the-counter decongestant?
They do, and it is a tragic, incredibly common misdiagnosis.
Seriously.
Yeah, because PAE is relatively rare in the general public, and the symptoms of ear fullness completely mimic standard nasal congestion or fluid in the ear. Doctors frequently prescribe decongestants or nasal sprays,
But a decongestant's entire job is to dry out fluids in your head.
which is the worst possible thing you can do for this condition. The Eustachian tube actually relies on sticky mucosal fluids and natural swelling to help keep the passageway sealed shut. Taking a decongestant chemically dries out the very fluids and shrinks the very tissues the tube desperately needs to remain closed.
Oh my God.
So the standard treatment prescribed by a well-meaning doctor actively exacerbates the structural failure, making the autophony and echoing drastically, sometimes unbearably, worse.
So you go to a medical professional for help so you can perform, and the treatment actively destroys your ability to function. That is horrifying. And that's not even the wildest part of this comeback story. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the massive offstage battles and shocking controversies IU has been secretly fighting all year that nobody saw coming. If you love staying updated on your favorites, make sure you're subscribed to StarScope K-Report. We've got even bigger scoops ahead.
So you might wonder how a 33-year-old artist at the absolute top of her game suddenly loses the fatty tissue and mucosal balance in her ear. To understand the physical collapse of her health, we have to look at the psychological siege she was under this entire year. We have to look at the broader context of 2026.
Right, because the timeline here, provided by reports from Chosun and Danyun News, paints a picture of immense, unrelenting offstage pressure. We know the body holds on to trauma and stress, you know?
Yeah.
When you look at what she's been dealing with, the physical burnout feels almost inevitable.
Yeah, let's start with the professional strain. Earlier this year, she took the lead role in a highly anticipated, massive budget K-drama called Perfect Crown. But almost immediately after airing, the production faced severe public backlash over historical inaccuracies regarding the wardrobe and the portrayal of certain historical figures.
And in the Korean entertainment industry, historical accuracy in period dramas is a massive third rail. Like, if the public feels a show is distorting national history, the backlash isn't just a few angry tweets. It becomes a national controversy, sometimes involving government petitions. But what's brutal is who takes the blame. It usually isn't the writers or the historians on staff.
No, the fury is directed at the face of the drama.
Exactly, which forced her to issue a direct, highly publicized personal apology for the production's missteps, stating she should have been more cautious in selecting the project. Taking the fall for a massive television production carries an immense emotional weight and just invites intense scrutiny.
It really does. But navigating a national television scandal would be enough to spike anyone's stress levels, right? But then her personal life was dragged into the blinding spotlight, too.
Oh, the Dispatch report.
Yeah, the media outlet Dispatch, which is notorious in the K-pop world for exposing celebrity couples, recently reported her split from actor Lee Jong-suk. This was a highly public relationship that lasted 4 years.
4 years in the public eye is a lifetime.
Right, and navigating a major breakup is emotionally devastating under normal circumstances. Doing it while your every move is monitored by paparazzi and while millions of fans are dissecting the timeline of your relationship on social media adds a layer of emotional exhaustion that most people just cannot comprehend.
And unfortunately, the toxicity of the internet didn't stop at her dating life. She became the target of a bizarre, highly organized smear campaign. Malicious trolls began spreading politically charged rumors across platforms like Instagram and Facebook, claiming she was secretly Chinese or acting as a proxy for Chinese capital in the entertainment sector.
And we are looking strictly at the legal facts of this situation as reported by EDM Entertainment. The spread of these defamatory rumors reached a point where her agency had to take unprecedented legal action to protect her.
Because in South Korea, suing anonymous internet users is incredibly difficult if they are using foreign-owned platforms like Meta. Local police often cannot compel a foreign tech giant to hand over user data for a defamation case.
Exactly. So her agency bypassed the local roadblocks entirely. EDM Entertainment actually filed a motion for evidence disclosure, which is essentially a subpoena request, in a U.S. federal court.
Wait, really? A U.S. court?
Yes, they utilized a specific legal mechanism in the United States to force Meta to hand over the IP addresses and user data of the anonymous trolls spreading these claims so they could unmask them and pursue civil and criminal charges back in Korea.
The legal maneuver itself is staggering, but think about the human cost here. I mean, IU has been a beloved bias for millions since her debut. She was once considered the industry's unofficial maknae, the golden little sister of K-pop.
Yeah, she grew up in the spotlight.
So to see her subjected to this level of targeted harassment, to the point where her team is fighting international legal battles just to stop people from lying about her identity, it's just infuriating.
It creates a state of chronic, unyielding hypervigilance. And this brings us right back to the medical reality of Patulous Eustachian Tube, because the medical literature explicitly links chronic stress, anxiety, and profound fatigue to the weakening of the body's physical systems.
Wait, so you're saying we just established that chronic fatigue and severe stress are direct triggers for POSTPONES. Is it possible that the unrelenting pressure of these scandals actually caused her physical health to collapse?
It connects the dots perfectly, but tragically, yeah. The mental weight of constantly protecting her image from malicious netizens, taking the fall for a drama controversy, navigating a public breakup, and initiating a massive U.S. lawsuit directly translates into physical inflammation, disrupted sleep, and profound exhaustion.
Wow, so the stress literally dried her out.
Exactly. When the mind is under that much sustained siege, the body's delicate systems begin to fail. Severe stress burns through the body's reserves. The mucosal linings dry up. The weight drops, shrinking the vital Osman's fat pad in the ear we talked about earlier. The physical structure of her ear collapsed because the psychological weight she was carrying became too heavy to support. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a KT update.
It's like the stress of the industry literally eroded her physical ability to hear her own music. And that leaves me with a lingering, much bigger picture question for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. The K-pop industry is a relentless machine. It demands constant, high-energy comebacks. It demands absolute perfection in complex choreography. And perhaps most dangerously, it demands flawless visuals.
Yeah, in this industry, visuals almost always translates to extreme dieting standards, maintaining incredibly low body mass indexes, and undergoing sudden, rapid weight loss just weeks before a promotional cycle begins just to look perfect for the cameras.
Which, as we've learned today, is the primary physical trigger for Patulous Eustachian Tube. It is the direct cause of the shrinking of the fatty tissue that keeps the ear functioning normally. If